Hello friends, really hoping that America doesn't start a third world war because Canada's right above America here, bringing you another Dota 2 video on behalf of Dota Alchemy, in which we're going to be talking about the best 4 positions currently in Dota 2. So the best roamers, the best offlane supports, whatever the hell you want to call them. Essentially, you are the support, but the greedy version of the position 5. So we're going to start with the S tier. And one thing that I do want to say about this S tier, obviously it's just Treant Protector. I think that any of the A tier heroes can be S tier if you are good enough at them. One thing that I've noticed when doing the research for this video is that a lot of these position 4s don't have good win rates. In fact, like all of the D tier position 4s have like late 30s, early 40s in terms of win percentage, which was shocking because it's like, how the hell are position 4s winning? And then I went and I looked at specific players and saw that, okay, this guy has a 60% win rate with this position 4 and a 30% win rate with this other position 4. So essentially, it seems like this role is one that is incredibly skill-based. So if you are good at a pause 4, it is much, much better than if you are average at a pause 4. So with that being said, in particular, these A tier heroes, if you're good at any of them, then they are probably S tier. If you are bad at them, then they are B or maybe even C tier. A bad Rubick is kind of abysmal. A good Rubick is, you know, literally TI winning. Like that's the skill cap on this hero. So don't feel bad if your hero is not in a high tier. If you are good enough at it, especially in this role, then it definitely can move up some tiers, other than these dogshit heroes. So first, we have Treant Protector. This hero, no matter who you are, is S tier. Why? It's pretty obvious. He was given Nature's Guise. It's a free ability. It does 3 things. It gives you tree walking. It gives you regen amplification on a hero that is basically all regen, and then it gives you movement speed. That's ridiculous for a spell that you don't even have to put a point in. With that being said, Leech Seed is one of the best trading abilities in the game. He also has 100 base damage, which is pretty cool. Even if the enemy team kills all of your trees and you can't benefit from the tree walking, you just walk up and deny every creep, because who in God's name has 100 damage? I mean, nobody. Now that especially Tiny has been nerfed. Nature's Grasp is really good for damage. It's really good for disable in the lane and in team fights, and it does a ton of damage. And this is what people sit in trees, and they use it to just split push lanes constantly. Playing against tree is so goddamn annoying, especially when he gets to level 10 and he gets the invisibility from Nature's Guise. On top of that, I do want to say that I think the most underrated component to Treant Protector in the recent patch is the Living Armor. Like, this is a global 4 bonus armor ability. I don't even care about the heal. It's just an extra 4 armor for 12 seconds. And the way Dota works, the way it's balanced, is that usually when you go for a gank, you can't just cast all your spells on somebody. That's not going to kill them. You need at least a little bit more with most heroes. And that's where you have auto attacks. But this armor and the heal nullifies that component. So if Treant Protector is on the enemy team, you have to bring so many more heroes to ganks, or it's not going to happen. You're not going to have any successful ganks. And then with that being said, when it comes to team fighting, Overgrowth now does damage, and on top of this, it has extended duration, so that's going to benefit from the Nature's Grasp. So you're doing 60 plus 75 damage per second for at least 3 seconds, with Leech Seed also ticking away. This hero does a serious amount of damage in teamfights, and that is something that could never be said before about Treant Protector. So this hero is in a good spot, and he's going to need quite a few nerfs before he's considered not overpowered. Okay, so that's enough complaining about Treant Protector for now. Let's talk about the A-tier heroes. We have Winter Wyvern, Rubick, Clockwork, Snapfire, Io, Shadow Shaman, and Puck. Winter Wyvern, this hero is a great position 4. It's a great position 3 because it scales really well with gold and experience. All of these abilities are great to level up. This increases the damage, it increases the range. Splinter Blast, you use it to push out side lanes and secure outposts. Cold Embrace, this is one of the best saves in Dota. You level up the Winter's Curse, and that's going to give you extended duration. And of course, now that you do damage during it, extended duration is so much more damage, even if you go for like a utility half damage build like Medallion Vlad's, which by the way, I think that's one of the biggest debates that exists worse right now is that people are going for damage builds on like Puck and Wyvern when your team doesn't really need damage. So you have to abuse the fact that these heroes are versatile. You can be utility, you can be damage, you can be team fight, you can be save, you can be disable, you can be everything. You just want to do whatever is best in the game. All of Wyvern's talents are completely amazing. This hero's in a great place, and it's basically because there's so much that you can potentially do on it. Rubick. Ever since this Arcane Supremacy was changed to do debuff amplification, anytime there are good spells in Dota to steal in the game, the hero's good. And Dota is filled with broken spells. So if you are a good enough Rubick, then you are going to win Dota by stealing the right spells and casting the right spells. On top of that, I think people have figured out a lot better how to lane Rubick to not be useless. People are nuking range creeps to make sure that they're getting those last hits. They're using Fade Bolt to do the damage reduction, to trade. They're setting up kills with certain heroes that are good with setup, like a Centaur or something like that, with Telekinesis. People are getting a lot better at playing Rubick, and there's a lot you can do with this hero in the lane and also in the game. More so in the game, but the lane people have figured out ways of adapting, essentially, to the fact that Rubick wasn't considered the strongest laner before. Clockwork. This hero's great. Battery Assault does a ton of damage. It always has, but now it's got no cast point. Power Cogs, the knockback duration is extremely long and extremely far. It's very annoying to deal with. This is one of the things that people are abusing right now. Rocket Flare, this has always been a good ability. It's a 4-second cooldown vision source that also has global damage. And Hookshot. Hookshot now stuns for a duration that's long enough that you can guaranteed knock people back with your cogs. This is something that has been incredibly underrated about the hero and is just now getting respected because the cog knockback duration and the damage and also the distance has been increased. So people are hookshotting in and then knocking back somebody out of position, kind of like a Pudge hook or a Batrider lasso to start fights. And it's a really, really good way of breaking up team fights. The hero has like a 56-57% win rate or something like that in pro level pubs. So as a pause 4, you can run around and snowball and get kills. And as a pause 3, this is why I don't like it as a pause 3. He's not the greatest at like pushing out lanes, but he loves killing people and roaming. And that is what pause 3s also love to do. Snapfire, obviously you have this new hero in Dota that isn't quite balanced just yet, so it's a great hero. Little Shredder is one of the best trading abilities in the game. Fire Snap Cookie, for some reason, isn't disabled by essentially anything. Like, it now works on rooted targets. They specifically changed that so that it worked on rooted targets, which I guess the hero was considered bad, even though it really wasn't. People just weren't really playing it right. Scatter Blast is good for pushing out creep waves and farming. I think that going for, like, the right-click build on this hero is dog shit, and you're griefing if you do it, but if you go for a utility build, you already do a ton of damage with this Mortimer's Kisses ability, and then you have all of this healing and utility, and because you're a strength hero with good strength gain, you feel immortal, especially with the Fire Snap Cookie, and if you go for the Fire Snap Cookie healing talent, it is very difficult to kill a Snapfire or any of her friends. Speaking of difficult to kill, Wisp. This hero has been good since its inception just because Relocate is broken. I am glad, just for the sake of the hero not feeling clunky, that they change Relocate to be a cast time where it's not a channel. So now you can like save people, you can play as that kind of like save somebody from Doom, which is very popular right now, save somebody from like a Chronosphere, something along those lines. But with that being said, this overcharge ability is ridiculously broken right now. It's just an 8-second duration, 40 mana cost, 16-second cooldown. So it's got 50% uptime. 50% of the time, the enemy team is getting 0.6% of their health back and getting 50 attack speed, at least. It is ridiculous. People feel immortal with a Wisp in the lane. And this is on a hero that obviously with Tether and the HP and mana giving to your buddy, like the hero already felt like you couldn't harass in the laning stage. And now it's even worse. This is one of the best trading laners in the game, and this is on a hero that was never particularly good at laning. You would essentially lose the laning stage and then just win the game because you have a bullshit Wisp combo and you relocate people around the map, which totally breaks split pushing entirely. So the hero used to break Dota, but now it's good at laning and it breaks Dota. But it's definitely a hero that's on the harder side of heroes to play in Dota. So this hero might be in like C tier if you're not well practiced with it. Shadow Shaman. This is something that Fear is playing a lot recently. I would definitely recommend checking him out. He seems to be spamming it. He has a good amount of success with it. Just the fact that you can Ether Shock in waves to secure outposts. You have a good amount of instant disable with Hex into Shackles, especially with the 2.5 second Shackle duration talent. Mass Serpent Ward now does a little bit more damage than it did before, but towers are important right now because outposts are important. So you really want to secure these side lane towers. And is there a better position 4 than this hero at split pushing side lanes? I don't think so. I mean, Leshrac arguably, but this hero's so good at laning because of these abilities, the disables, the kill threat, the harass that comes from Ether Shock, and then also having 80 base damage. This is like the only hero other than Treant that has this much base damage. For whatever reason, they gave it to him. So yeah, Shadow Shaman's in a very good spot right now, and I think the win rate reflects that quite a bit in pro level pubs, like 52, 53% the last time I checked it out. Puck, best hero in Dota. What can I say? I don't know how this couldn't be in the S or A tier. Orb makes you impossible to kill. Waning Rift makes you impossible to kill. You have a shitload of damage between these two abilities. You have Disable in the Waning Rift. Phase Shift makes you impossible to kill. Dream Coil is arguably the best Disable in the game currently against a lot of these popular heroes. It's a hero that farms. You can build travels. It's very good at trading because you do very high right clicks. It's just that if you're picking it as a position 4, you definitely need to make sure that you're picking an offlaner that's a little bit beefier, that can kind of frontline for you. Because Puck isn't good at taking right clicks, only good at giving right clicks. So you need a beefcake in front of you. But still, what an amazing hero! If you were good at Puck right now, it is god tier. And I think as a position 4, you probably 90% of the time want to go the cast range talent because then you don't need to get a blink dagger. So you're not going to have as much farm as you would have as a pause 3 or as a pause 2, but it doesn't matter because you don't need the blink as much because you have the cast range talent. So your coil is bigger, your waning rift is longer. It's just a lot easier to play with the cast range talent. And of course, you're not really going to lack damage as when you're a pause 4. Like you should have cores that are doing damage. So you don't really need the phase shift attack. Next, let's talk about the B tier heroes. So these are the heroes that I wouldn't consider to be like extremely strong by any means, at the very least in the position 4. So for example, like Vengeful Spirit, I consider this hero to be A or S tier, just in general, in terms of Dota heroes, but I think it's a better position 5. I think that if you want a position 4, you probably want a hero who's better at roaming, a hero who's better at farming lanes, like pushing lanes out, or being a little bit more effective rather than just being like a stun and a swap and kind of a suicide, because as a pause 5, you can do all that stuff anyway. But still, because the hero's so good, of course, it's going to be good in almost any role. So we have Skywrath Mage. I'll go back to the list here. We have Skywrath Mage, Lina, Vengeful Spirit, Elder Titan, Tusk, and Dark Willow. I think most of these heroes actually have pretty bad win rates, other than Dark Willow and maybe Vengeful Spirit. And I don't necessarily think that means that the heroes are bad. Like I said in the intro, it just means that they are quite skill-based. If you are good at them, they are going to be extremely good. Skywrath Mage, it definitely did hurt him to lose his XP gain. But with that being said, Arcane Bolt is great for harassing. Concussive Shot is the best it's ever been in terms of the stats on it. Like, it does a lot of damage for a very low mana cost. The slow is good. The range is good. Ancient Seal, this ability has been amazing for a long time. It's one of the best disables in the game. It's permanent once you get the talent. Mystic Flare, this allows you to do a ton of damage with a lot of these setup offlaners that people are actually picking. And probably my favorite thing about this hero being a pause 4 is he's not really great at pushing lanes, so you can't be a core, but he's one of the best late game heroes in all of Dota. So you essentially want him in a position where you're not farming lanes, but you get core farm from getting kills. Because if you become a core, you will just solo carry the game. And that screams pause 4. So that's why Sky is so good right now. It's just because he's so goddamn strong with some levels in gold. Lina, very similar to Skywrath Mage, where except you can push lanes, but the thing with Lina is that you want her on your team in the late game just because of the damage and disable that she does and how strong she is in the late game, but you don't want her on a core position necessarily because it's a little risky to have a hero that's squishy on a core position. So with that being said, it's almost impossible to lose lanes with a Lina on your team just because Light Strike Array is high damage, high stun duration, 7-second cooldown. Her right clicks are extremely strong, long range, high attack speed. People go 2 points in the Fiery Soul just to sit there whacking people. It's one of the best trading supports in Dota, and it's almost impossible to go for a kill on a Lina lane because she just stuns you, and it's almost impossible to not have a Lina lane that has kill threat because she has this ridiculous stun. So Lina's in a pretty good spot despite the nerfs. Vengeful Spirit, already talked about her a little bit. Wave of Terror is one of the best trading abilities in the game. I know 60 damage doesn't look like it's a lot, but for 25 mana, it is a lot. And then especially because it does 3 armor reduction. Magic Missile, one of the best stuns in the game. It did get nerfed, so it's a little bit worse. It's 1 second worse. This has always just been an ability to kind of like break TPs and to like set things up. So it's still quite good. This Vengeance Aura is completely broken, essentially. The bonus primary attribute, that's just Luna's old aura, plus bonus attack range. You pick this hero with a couple of range cores, and they feel like complete gods. Another swap, ever since they added 2 charges to this, it's been just god tier. On top of that, I really think that the Aghanim Scepter is severely underrated on Vengeful Spirit. It is almost impossible to win team fights when she is swapping people out and fearing people at the swap target. Like, that is just absolutely ridiculous. It is guaranteed that you are going to kill that one target that you swap. And I really think people should be building that a lot more. The only thing is, if you do build that, then a lot of the time you're going to lack the hero that builds a pipe, or maybe builds in like those Vlads and kind of pseudo damage items. So you definitely want to make sure that you have some other hero building that stuff if you are going to go for the Ags Rush. But Venge is in a quite good place. Elder Titan, people have been picking this hero quite a bit. I think the new Aghanim Scepter is very good on him, the BKB coming from the Astral Spirit, because, of course, it makes so much more sense than before. You have the Astral Spirit come in, you want to whack people, so you're BKB'd while you're whacking them. It's very good. On top of that, there are a lot of heroes that Natural Order is very good against. There's like Morphlings being picked, Phantom Lancers, Naga Sirens, and all of these abilities are good against those kind of illusion, Agi heroes. Natural Order is the counter to Agi heroes. For Elder Titan, I would recommend checking out GH replays. He's very good at team fighting when it comes to pressing the actual abilities on this hero, and I think that's one of the big things that separates good Elder Titans from bad ones. Tuskar. This hero is good with particular lane combos, so if you have like a ranged laner like Enchantress, who, well, that's a completely terrible hero, so maybe I should give you a better example. But let's say you have a ranged laning hero like a Venomancer off lane, or a Dazzle, or a Batrider, anything like that, who can just get a bunch of free right clicks on somebody who Tusk shards off and uses the tag team. It is very easy to get kills. On top of that, if you are good enough with this hero and there are good things to save people from with the snowball, then it's one of the highest skill cap heroes in all of Dota. The punch is really great against these like Juggernauts and these Naxes who use magic immunity to kind of split push lanes and act really aggressive, and just being able to cancel their TPs and disable them with the Walrus Punch is quite good. On top of that, he's very good against squishy supports like Lich, Rubick, Lina, because you can just get on top of them and kind of one-hit them with all of your abilities. I shouldn't say one hit, but you can basically take them 100-0 with all of your abilities, and that makes you much more effective. I consider Pudge to be a similar hero to that, where I only pick it if it wasn't bad right now. I would only pick it if there are heroes on the enemy team that I know that I can solo, because that's a big impact that hero can have, as well as Tuskar. Dark Willow. Dark Willow's great. Bramble Maze has a very low cooldown. It does a lot of damage. It's always done a lot of damage, so technically speaking, I don't know how many Brambles there are. There are 8, so 125 damage. So this ability can do like 1,000 damage at level 1. Technically, it's possible, so it's a very good level 1 ability. A lot of the time, people will get hit by like 1 or 2 of the Brambles if you target it well enough, or if you have a hero to set up for you. Shadow Realm makes you almost impossible to kill. The Aghanim Scepter is a great upgrade if you are actually scaling to be a very farmed position 4. Terrorize is a great teamfight disable. Bedlam does a crapload of damage. It's pretty good for pushing out side lanes. And Cursed Crown is just a pretty solid disable all around. The only thing is, this is one of those heroes where it feels like there's a lot of finesse to playing it. I know I said this about all of these position 4s, but essentially there's these windows of opportunity between all of your spells going off, where it's like if the enemy team disables you and you don't get the Shadow Realm off, you just die. If you misplace your Bramble Maze just a bit, they just walk around it. If you Cursed Crown and you don't do it like your Yule's timing correctly, then the enemy team might get a BKB off or get a spell off or silence you like with their turn rate and then Orchid you or something. So it really does feel like one of those heroes where you want to play with instinct. You want to get a good feel for it, but it's in a very good place right now. Very good. I think ever since the Bramble Maze change, where it lasts 15 seconds and has a 20-second cooldown, I mean, that's a 5-second downtime on an ability that does like possibly 1,000 damage at level 1. Of course, that's going to be strong. And then you get the cooldown talent, and that's obviously huge, ridiculous uptime. You have 2 Bramble Mazes going at least at any given point. It's really ridiculous. Next, let's talk about the C tier heroes. So these are essentially heroes that are either situational or specialty. Dazzle, this hero is situational because you would pick it against like an Undying, you'd pick it against an Ember Spirit, any hero that's going to get really destroyed by this Poison Touch ability. I think that's the main reason that you would pick Dazzle, is to just destroy the laning phase. Earthshaker. Earthshaker's really good in situations where you're not going to get super punished by having him in the lane because he's quite a weak laner. So if you have an offlaner who's already going to win the lane and is a really strong laner, then you can be a bit greedier and pick an Earthshaker. He's one of the best team fighters in all of Dota. Echo Slam into all of his abilities with Aftershock. There are very few heroes who are going to survive this from full HP. It's just generally a pretty good hero right now because Naga Siren and PL are getting picked. Even Meepo is a pretty strong hero. So Earthshaker's in a pretty decent place just due to the current state of the meta, but I would be careful picking him as an offlaner. This is why I have him in the pause 4 list, because he doesn't apply that much pressure in the lane. Invoker. Quaswex is amazing. Ever since they changed this Invoke to scale with your levels, so essentially you don't need the Aghanim Scepter, this hero got a lot better as a support because you aren't going to farm the Ags, and if you're going Quaswex, you want to go for like the Vessel, so it works perfectly with that build. It's just something that you want to pick it with a combo. You want to pick like Axe Invoker, or you want to make sure that there are heroes in the game that really don't like to have their mana drained. Something like a Troll or a Pudge. These heroes that have low mana pools, Bristleback, for example. Heroes that have low mana pools, but like to use their mana. Then Invoker is quite strong. But he's a weak laner, which is why he's not in like the B tier. But very good right now, very good. Venomancer, just a broken hero. So this is why he's in this list. I would say if you're up against like an Ursa or a Sven, something that's really easily kiteable, then you can get away playing this as a position 4 just because it's such a strong hero. Usually you want it as a position 3, but like I said, there are situations where you already have a pause 3 picked, like you have a, let's say, Centaur, enemy team picks an Ursa, well, punish it by picking the Veno. Pangolier, specialty hero. You play this if you're good at Pango. Weaker laner, so you need to make sure that you're playing up against like some support that you can kill, like a Crystal Maiden or Silencer. Then it's going to be really good because you can just punish that guy in the laning stage, or make sure that your offlaner is a very strong laner. But I think position 4 is one of is arguably maybe even his best role. I guess if you're a Pango player, you can play it in almost any role just because that's just what the hero does. But in pause 4, your abilities are very welcome. You know, having a big team fight disable, like that's something that a pause 4 will generally have. Swashbuckle, like this is really good for clearing lanes. That's what you want pause 4s to do a lot of the time. It's really good for jumping around and in the laning stage and ganking people, and that's what you want pause 4s to do. So it's a very good role for him. Nyx Assassin. This is quite a good hero. I would say it's situational, just because if you're against like an OD, for example, it's broken. If you have like a Leshrac in your lane, some hero where you can benefit from like the double stun coming from Impale, it's amazing. If you're against a Pugna, the Spike Carapace is amazing. If you need some sort of break because you're up against some hero like Huskar, then this hero is really good at killing a hero like that. So in the situations where it's good, it's broken. You just need to look for them. Batrider, one of the best pause 3s in the game, but a very good support. If the enemy team has some hero that it can't do anything to getting sticky napalmed, even if it's in like a support position, if you can just nullify the enemy support by picking a certain support, then it's going to be good. Especially if like the core matchup is good. Let's say you have like an Ursa versus a Lifestealer. Right, and then you pick the Batrider to like own a support, Elder Titan, something like that, so the Ursa doesn't get zoned. Then you're going to completely destroy that lane. The Ursa can just snowball the lane and solo, and then you can eventually go to the jungle, get some levels up, build Boots of Travel, and scale to kind of essentially be a core dealing with the lanes that other people don't want to deal with. Disruptor. Better position 5, but such a strong hero right now that is a good position 4, and not bad with farm. The levels are pretty good because all of these abilities are decent to level up. Glimpse increases the range, Thunderstrike increases the damage, Kinetic Field increases the duration and reduces the cooldown, which is the more important thing. And Static Storm has one of the best Aghanim Scepter upgrades in the entire game. So definitely not a bad position 4, but doesn't really gank as much as you would want. It doesn't have that much kill threat as much as you might want for something like a Clockwork that has way more kill threat depending on the heroes you're up against. So if you have very easy to kill heroes with a Disruptor, like let's say you're against a Queen of Pain, or a Storm Spear, where you really hard counter their heroes, then yeah, pick it as a pause 4. You're going to be fine. Tiny. I was considering putting this hero in the A tier, only because EG was owning with it in the previous tournament, and they got like 2nd place or something, so I thought it must be good, but then I kind of had this realization that EG picks this with a very specific draft in mind. They pick it, they play in a tri-lane, which doesn't happen that much in pubs. They play together, and it's not necessarily something that can work in pubs. But with that being said, I refuse to not put this hero as a pause for. If EG is picking it and having success with it, then I'm absolutely sure that I'm never going to call it bad. The way toss works in general in the laning stage, just throwing people into towers, throwing people into your team, the ganking potential that comes from it is immense. And then Avalanche is one of the best disables in the game. And eventually you can scale with the tree grab and push lanes now, which, I mean, I guess that's not that great on a pause for tiny. But with that being said, like the toss and the stun from Avalanche, like this is still going to be one of the best gankers in the game if you're good at it, if your team wants to play with you. Okay, so let's finally talk about the D tier heroes and the dog shit tier heroes. So D tier, we have Abaddon, Jakiro, Doom, Bounty Hunter, Marauder, Viper, Crystal Maiden, Ogre, Shadow Demon, Earth Spirit, Grimstroke, Zeus, Shrek, Pugna, Enchantress, Lion. And then in dog shit, we have Riki, Techies, Pudge, Windranger. We'll get to that in a second here. But Abaddon, decent pause 4, basically good if you need something, if you need some purge, if you really need a purge, like if they have a Marana and you're really concerned about the arrow, then it's quite good. But just on the weaker side of heroes, generally speaking, right now. Jakiro, win rate is abysmally low, but I refuse to believe that it's dog shit tier just because of the pushing power that comes out of this hero and the team fighting power that comes out of this hero, but probably better in a position 5 role. Doom, also probably better as a position 3 because you'll get a lot more items, you'll get farm, and you'll kind of be the aura building hero. Probably better as a position 5 because you'll do the position 4 things as a position 5 as well. It's one of those heroes where there's that like split where you need a lot to do, you need like a lot of experience in gold to do the core thing, but you need very little to do the support thing. So I think 4 is just not a great position for him because Doom, I mean, you can't really leave your lane, but it's still a broken hero. So I'm never not going to put it on this list. Bounty Hunter, I was actually considering putting this hero in the dog shit tier, but the only reason that I didn't is because there's so much fighting going on right now. And track can completely snowball a game. If you take a fight around an outpost and you track people and you get a bunch of kills, you can completely snowball. And that is something I cannot underrate right now. But he has one of the most abysmal laning phases of any position 4. He can be completely goddamn useless. And you basically are going to lose the laning stage and then come back by getting track kills. Marana. She's just been nerfed too much. That's the thing with Marana, but she's definitely not dog shit tier. Just the fact that you can use Moonlight Shadow to secure outposts and to secure bounty runes, of course she's never going to be bad. She's also a skill-based hero, and Spirit Vessel's still good. Like all of the items that she used to build are still really good on her. So I think she's not too bad. Viper, probably a better pause 5. I think that as a pause 4, you could potentially go for like a Travels build or something like that. But definitely just a broken hero, and that's why I put him on this list. I refuse to not put a broken hero that if you think it's a good Viper game, once again, going back to like the Venomancer, if the enemy team has some Ursa that you really want to punish in the laning stage, pick a Viper. That's perfectly fine. Like if you're going to win the lanes are so important right now. Crystal Maiden has been nerfed a little too much. Probably a better position 5 at this point. Maybe not even that great of a position 5. Very squishy, very easy to kill. I suppose a lot of other 4 roles are, but they will provide a lot more than a CM does in the laning phase. Ogre. I think Ogre does the exact same thing as a pause 4 that he does as a pause 5. I think the Midas build and getting a ton of items on Ogre is a giant meme. If any other hero had all of those items, it would have way more of an impact than the Ogre. And Ogre essentially just runs in, bloodlusts people, and stuns one guy and then dies. And I think as a pause 5, you can do that. Shadow Demon, pretty bad win rate right now. I'm not entirely sure why. I thought it was pretty good, but it's been nerfed quite a few times because it just keeps getting picked by pros on and off. Certain teams really favor this hero. It's definitely a good hero for trading in the laning stage, but with that being said, there's a lot of kill heroes right now. There's not necessarily these like trading heroes. It's all about fighting. It's all about killing. And he's decent at that, but a lot of the time he was picked to just shadow poison on an Undying or something to trade with them. Earth Spirit. I thought this hero was going to be really good at the start of the patch. It's got like a 36% win rate. It seems terrible. I actually, I don't even know why. I'm not even entirely sure why. It's just that I guess since its inception, it's been nerfed so many goddamn times, and other heroes have been buffed so many goddamn times that Earth Spirit is just not in a good place. I hate to not have a better explanation for you. I actually thought that this was going to be a high win rate hero at the start of the patch. I was like, oh, people are killing and fighting right now. This is great for Earth Spirit, but his win rate is just dog shit. But because the patch definitely favors his playstyle, and I think if you're good enough at it, you can win team fights, I don't want to put him in dog shit tier, but he's definitely borderline. Grimstroke. Once again, same as Earth Spirit, just nerfed since inception, but still pretty good. Probably better as a pause 5 where you just sit in the lane and stroke of fade it out. Only really good if you have some sort of combo with it, like Doom plus Soulbind or Lich plus Soulbind. Zeus, ultra punishable as a pause 4, a hero that is incredibly easy to kill in the laning phase, doesn't really apply any pressure in the laning phase, but if you can get away with it as a pause 4, it's one of the best heroes in the game. Like, I should say in the mid to late game. It's just such a strong hero. Leshrac, also very punishable. If you have some sort of setup stun for it, it's quite good, but super easy to kill. If you're against a kill lane and they start killing you a lot, and you keep coming back, you have like 400 HP and paper armor, you're gonna feed. But and Leshrac also needs quite a few levels. So if you can get there, if you can have a good laning stage on Leshrac, he's quite good. Pugna is good if you really need it to counter specific heroes, like if the Nether Ward really counters heroes, or if the enemy team has an Ursa, or you really desperately feel like you need some sort of pushing, and like Leshrac is banned, or some other pushing hero is banned, then maybe Pugna's like your go-to hero. But Pugna's decent. Pugna's received enough buffs to not be dog tier, but it's still, you'll potentially have people flame you for picking this, because you kind of need a lot to really apply pressure. You can be very useless in the laning stage. Enchantress, I think this hero is bad, but if you're going to play it in any position, it's position 5 and it's position 4, because you're very easy to kill and you need a beefcake in front of you. But if you do have that beefcake, then your like level 1 to level 5 is very good in terms of just trading. There are very few heroes who can deal with this impetus. You're essentially just making the enemy team constantly salve and be low HP, and as a core that kind of sucks, but as a position 5 and a position 4, that's decent. Lion, I was considering putting this hero on dogshit tier. He's like a 42% win rate, which is bad in pro level pubs. I know a lot of people are going to hate that I said that because it's the second most picked hero in Dota, so people really enjoy this hero. But I do have to say, maybe this is personal bias, but some of the most useless players that I've ever seen have been Lion players. They just kind of stand around, miss a stun, and then die and steal kills with finger. But with that being said, I have seen the occasional Lion pop off with just blinking in, fingering people, somebody who's really confident, hitting all of the hexes, like pre-hexes, and getting those stacks and fingers. So I do think that there's a skill cap on this hero. It's just a very easy hero to be useless and squishy and feed on. So don't be one of those Lions. Okay, now finally we get to the dogshit tier. We've Riki, Techies, Pudge, Windranger. Riki, he's a good core. He's a decent mid. I've seen Topson playing it quite a bit, but as a pause 4, he offers almost nothing. He needs an insane amount of levels before he does anything. This is griefing to pick this hero. Techies, Proximity Mines was broken at the start of this patch. They nerfed it. Now it's worse than it was before, and Techies was already pretty goddamn bad. The only good thing he has going for him is that Blastoff is a suicide, and there are no other goddamn suicides in Dota to speak of. Remote Mines is pretty good too. The XP talent getting removed from him is a huge hit. This hero does not get levels anymore, and he has one of the best talent trees in the game. It is such a shame that they nerfed him for Techies players. Not for us non-Techies players. This one's a shame for me. Removing Rot Deny. This hero is garbage. Complete garbage. Like, there's so many situations before where you could go make space and it's like, okay, maybe I'm not as effective as another offlaner. Maybe I don't have as many levels. Maybe I'm not as do as much damage. Maybe I'm not as tanky, but at least I can make space and kill myself with a rod. That was half of why the hero was good. And now you just can't. And then on top of that, his XP talent was removed. And as a pause 4, what in God's name are you going to do in the laning stage? Are you going to hook somebody every 27 seconds? The point where this hero had a small glimmer of hope as a pause 4 was when Meat Hook had a way lower cooldown at level 1. Now it is just awful. This is a bad hero. And I hate it, man. It's my favorite hero. Windranger. Also griefing. This hero does so little in the laning stage. It's insanely easy to kill. It's not that great at pushing lanes. It's not a guaranteed, like, good disable. Focus Fire is single target as a pause 4. You do no damage with it. It's just very mediocre on all fronts. I know there's a lot of Windranger players that don't like to hear that. I enjoy playing this hero. It's very fun, so I would like it to be better. And it was cool when the Orb of Venom was the thing, but it's very hard to have a high impact on this hero as a pause 4. You're going to lose the lane, and then you're never going to really come back, because what are you going to do to come back? You steal your core's farm? Then you're just picking it as a core. Why not play it mid in the first place? It's just, Windranger's in such a weird place. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I hope to see you in another video.